Have you seen Blonde? Netflix released one of the most highly anticipated films of 2022, with Ana de Armas playing Marilyn Monroe. But so far, it has garnered an unbelievable amount of backlash for its depiction of the Hollywood icon. There's really no exaggerating when it comes to how much the audiences hate it. The film's director, Andrew Dominik, has been on the receiving end of most of the public's outrage for his exploitative and hyper-sexualized approach to telling Marilyn's story, which essentially fetishizes her trauma. So let's take a deep dive into all the controversy surrounding the movie. Here are the top 10 reasons that Blonde is getting slammed by audiences. Number 10, its director. Andrew Dominik has made it clear that he's not too bothered if audiences are disturbed by Blonde, which just seems like it's adding fuel to the fire even more as people try to decide what to make of the controversy. In an interview with Screen Daily, he said, "It's a demanding movie. If the audience doesn't like it, that's the effing audience's problem. I'm not running for public office. It's an NC-17 movie about Marilyn Monroe. It's kind of what you want, right? I want to go see the NC-17 version of the Marilyn Monroe story, but making a film loaded with sex scenes that tells a fictional version of a woman's real life might not actually be what everyone wants." So not only is Andrew not willing to explain his creative choices, but he makes it sound like the audience doesn't even deserve the explanation. He could have at least attempted to sell his film and explain why it does Marilyn Monroe justice, but he doesn't even try. If you're loving this video so far, please hit that like button, it would really help us out. Number 9, too graphic. Audiences have also taken issue with the film's numerous depictions of sexual violence, calling the scenes factually inaccurate and gratuitously graphic, especially the one scene with US President JFK, which viewers called horrifying and disgusting. It starts with Secret Service agents dragging Marilyn to President Kennedy after she had taken pills and become disorientated. He then forces her to perform fellatio as he aggressively pushes her head down. The shot is incredibly close up and extremely disturbing, considering that it was most likely fabricated just for the movie. Another scene shows Marilyn being attacked by a man implied to be the 20th Century Fox studio executive Darryl F. Zanuck. There are also so many topless scenes which are completely unnecessary, and for some reason they have Marilyn calling every guy that she's with daddy. In the end, Blonde is just an excuse to make an X-rated film with a little bit of 1950s cosplay. Number 8, the talking fetus. The film gives some potentially confusing messages about miscarriages and pregnancy. Reviews from the Venice Film Festival have referenced a particularly disturbing scene where a fetus talks to Marilyn from her uterus before she miscarries. This part was not only done in bad taste, but it would be unsettling to people who may have had miscarriages themselves. However, Andrew insisted that it was necessary because, quote, "she wants to have a child because she wants to rescue herself. Her own experience of motherhood is disastrous based on her own mother, but that baby is real to her. And so that's why you see the baby. I'm trying to create her experience. I'm trying to put the audience through the same thing. I'm not concerned with being tasteful." But with reproductive rights being taken away across the US, the subject has to be approached carefully when it's explored on screen. Otherwise, most of your audience is going to find it downright offensive. Number 7, Ana's comments. Something that rubbed fans the wrong way was Ana's comments about feeling Marilyn's spirit on set. Speaking about filming at the exact location of her death, the 34-year-old Cuban actress said, "I truly believe that she was very close to us. She was with us. I think she was happy. She was approving of what we were doing. She would also throw things off the wall sometimes and get mad if she didn't like something." Maybe this sounds very mystical, but it's true. We all felt it. So not only did she claim to know how the Hollywood icon felt about her movie, but she also seemed more than okay with the controversial set location. Early on in the making of Blonde, Ana said she started seeing Marilyn Monroe in her dreams and that they would have full-on conversations. She said, "It was beautiful. I would wake up the next morning and it would just make me feel closer. I felt like I was truly experiencing everything." So make of that what you will. Number 6, complete fiction. Even though it's presented as a biopic, it doesn't completely follow Marilyn's real life, because Blonde is based on a book of fiction by author Joyce Carol Oates, and many have argued that the screen adaptation creates a strange misconception on what her life was actually like, especially as the film is being described as a biopic even though it's decidedly not based on a biographical account of her life. The author herself has openly admitted to distilling certain events, with details being rearranged and invented to suit the story. For example, the book and the film both explore a conspiracy theory that Marilyn was killed by US Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. For a person's life events to be manipulated in this way has left some people uncomfortable. One fan tweeted, "Blonde is heavily based on a fictional book about Marilyn Monroe that will go to feed the public more lies about her. This is not a biopic." Number 5, critics hate it. Blonde has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes, and while Ana de Armas is being praised for her performance, when it comes to everything else about the film, critics are not happy. Due to the controversial content, critic Grace Randolph announced earlier this year that we should not be covering the film in any capacity, calling the film's presentation as a biography pretty appalling and a sick fantasy. Christy Lemire from Roger Ebert said the film focused on condemning the cruelty that the superstar endured until her death at 36, while also reveling in it. Too much of Blonde is about men chewing Marilyn up and spitting her back out. Manola Dargis from the New York Times wrote, "Given all the indignities and horrors that Marilyn Monroe endured during her 36 years, it is a relief that she didn't have to suffer through the vulgarities of Blonde, the latest necrophiliac entertainment to exploit her. She was an actress of uncommon talent, but once again a director is more interested in examining her body, literally in this case, than getting inside her mind." Number 4, the exact location. Filming started on August the 4th, which was the anniversary of Marilyn's death in 1962. The initial scenes of the film were shot in the same apartment where a young Marilyn, who was then called Norma Jean, lived with her mentally ill mother. The filming locations and set design were intentionally rooted in historical accuracy. The death scene was also shot in the same room where Marilyn really died, but filming in the actual room where she died had sparked a conversation on social media about the ethics of preserving such tragedy on film, because it technically could have been recreated anywhere. To make matters worse, a lot of the cast and crew claimed that the room was haunted by her ghost. The Australian director said, "It definitely took on elements of being like a seance, but was it necessary to use a real location while going on a tour of Marilyn's historic misery? It just felt like the director was doing everything in his power to make sure he exploited her life as much as possible." Number 3, painting a victim. Blonde is a relentlessly bleak and punishing film, focused almost entirely on showing the suffering inflicted on Marilyn over its 2.5-hour runtime. People feel that the movie does a disservice to Marilyn by skipping over many aspects of her life that would show her as having more agency and painted a fuller picture of her as a person, all in favor of focusing only on her suffering. For instance, the fact that she founded a production company is not mentioned at all, or that she was involved in opposing the anti-communist witch hunts by the House Un-American Activities Committee in the 50s. In response, Andrew Dominic said that the film is not about that. He said it's about an extraordinarily self-destructive person. As for shining the light on her achievements, he said, "Any person that's killing themselves is not a figure of female empowerment." It's almost as if he doesn't even like Marilyn to begin with. Number 2, the length. The film has also been criticized for its long running time, which is almost 3 hours, and instead of focusing on Marilyn's actual character and morality, Blonde focuses so much of its time on being artistic, switching from black to white to color, playing with cinematography to a point where it feels distracting. In fact, there are so many visual choices overloaded on screen that are extremely questionable, and in the end it just makes the film look incredibly tacky. Critics have said that the film feels like it has no direction and just wants to be artsy to cover up the fact that it doesn't have a real, coherent message behind it. Many people say the same thing, that there just comes a point in the film where it's exceedingly hard to watch it to its entirety. In general, there is no clear reason why a large audience of Marilyn fans would watch her suffer at the hands of other people continuously for 3 hours. And coming in at number 1, letting Marilyn rest. Above all, critics and Marilyn fans have suggested that the way in which this film has been made and promoted could be furthering an exploitative narrative that the star contended with while she was alive, especially because this isn't even the first time that we've seen her portrayed on screen incorrectly, in a way that didn't do her life justice. Even her clothing has been taken out of museums and worn by the likes of Kim Kardashian, who damaged Marilyn's iconic dress by wearing it to the Met Gala. The concern seems to be that Blonde is not telling the true story of Marilyn's life, therefore not honoring her in the best way that it could, and it may not be acknowledging the full scope of how she was exploited when she was alive. And in a way, people are still profiting from her talent even after her death. Most people believe that at this stage her legacy should simply be left alone. So what do you think about the movie? Let me know in the comments below and I'll catch you in the next video.